Hey guys, welcome back. It's Tinkering and Talking with Jeff, and we're out here in the garage again. And I wanted to say hi to all the Bethesda family out there. If you're, missing, we are hopefully getting close to opening back up. We're just doing a lot of work around the church, trying to get things finished up, put back together. You're probably not going to recognize the place when it's done. It's there's a lot going on there right now in this time. If you're not from our church family, we want to welcome you. Hit the subscribe button, like. We do this right now. Where Sister Brenda is teaching on Facebook right now, and then on Sunday mornings we do YouTube live. We do Facebook live streams of our Sunday service, and I'm excited about what's going on as far as we're using new technology. New to us, but I wanted to talk tonight. I've been listening to several pastors on YouTube and streaming radio over these few weeks, and I found something interesting and something I had never really paid attention to, so I went back and read the story again. We're in Matthew chapter 7, and I believe it's around verse 24. It's the story of the wise man and the foolish man. And basically, Jesus is teaching the people. He says, hey, if you hear my words and you put them into action, you're a wise man. You're like the wise man who built his house on a rock, a solid foundation. And when the streams rose, when the winds beat, everything came against that house, it still stood. And if you hear these words and you just ignore them or you don't put them into action, guess what? You're like the foolish man. He built his house on sand. He built it out on the beach. The waves came, the wind came, the waters rose, all that washed out from underneath his house. It collapsed. But what was really interesting, though, is I put these words into action, the storm came. If I didn't put the words into action, the same storm came. So just like it also says in Scripture, it rains on the just and the unjust too. We're going to have the storms. It doesn't matter whether we're following God or we're living our own life, doing whatever we want to do. The fact is that we will still face those same storms. We're going to hit the same things. Right now, we're in the same storm as the rest of the world right now, as the rest of the country, as the rest of the state, as the rest of the cities. We're in the same boat. We're facing the same storm. The only difference is if we're putting those words into action, we're going to be standing coming out the other side of this. Another thing that I found is it doesn't say that the house is in perfect condition through the storm. It doesn't say that the house doesn't maybe sway or get some broken windows. It just says that the house is still standing. It's on a firm foundation. All the parts are there. It's going to need some repair, but it's not been destroyed. It's not been torn down. The house that was on the sand just obliterated. It all washed out, became driftwood, like driftwood I talked about a few weeks ago. It's washed up and floating across the ocean or slapping up on a beach somewhere. But the house that was built on the rock, it still stood there. It took some damage. It lost some shingles, just like us. Especially, these are examples. This is a good example of a time because we've never really seen this before. We've never been kind of shut down the way we've been shut down lately. But the interesting part is as a believer, you put God's words into action, but guess what? That doesn't mean that you're going to come out unscathed. It doesn't mean that you won't have some doubts. You won't have some questions. You won't have damage per se, But since we built it on the rock to begin with, we're going to rebuild it on the rock. We're going to fix all the things that are broken. The paint that's been chipped off the front door, the soffit that's been blown out. These are all things that just happen in a storm, and don't think that they can't happen to us as individuals. in a spiritual storm. We're going to take a little bit of beating. There's going to be times where we may question ourselves, or are we, am I doing what God really wants me to do? Is this the thing? It's not that we're not in the will of God. It's just that we're going to face the storms. But the thing we have that those that built their house on the sand that aren't putting this into practice, we have over them, is we know who the great carpenter is. We know who the great builder is. He didn't come to destroy. The devil came to destroy. God came to build. Jesus came to build. Everything about salvation is building and renewing and making things better, not tearing them down, not destroying. So if we want to put it into action, we just have to believe. I know where I put my foundation. I know where I stand. When I stand, there's something solid behind me. There's something solid under my feet. I'm not sinking off in the mud. I don't know how many of you ever played in a creek as a kid, but some of the deepest mud holes are in the shallowest creeks. The water is maybe 2 inches, 3 inches deep, 6 inches deep, but it's knee deep with mud. It'll suck you down. That's not a good place to build. You don't build in the middle of a swamp. You don't build in a marsh or a wetland because there's nothing under you. And I don't build my faith on a bunch of just guesses and ideas. I build my faith on something that's solid, something that I've seen, something that is eternal. Rocks aren't necessarily eternal. They will erode away. They will freeze and crack. And they will, over time, come apart. God is the solid rock. God never comes apart. God never erodes. He never gets weaker. Nothing of that sort comes from God. But as far as earthly things, solid rock is it. You see a sand dune, but sand dunes don't stay the same all the time. They change because they get pushed around. They're made of nothing solid. But a mountain doesn't get pushed around by the wind. That mountain is there. That's where it is. So, in closing tonight, I just want to say, everybody stay strong. It's coming close to an end. We're going to be back together soon, and we're going to have a grand time in the Lord. And I look for a big time of renewal and revival when we get back together. But what I want you guys to think of is right now with doing this online and all that, and these little messages every week, we're turning our houses into churches. We're learning and experiencing God in our houses. So when we come back together, when we can physically get back together into church, let's keep the worship in our houses as well. Let's keep a church alive at home. And those of you out there, I can't wait to see you. Pray for the church. Pray for the finances. Pray for everything. We have a lot going on right now. But I think you all are going to be real happy and real surprised with what you see. And we're looking forward to having everybody back. So until next week, we'll see you Sunday. You guys have a good night and God bless.